All right, there we go. Welcome inside Crossroads Social House, another edition of the Bobcats Coaches Show with head coach Wytheville and our player guest tonight, always finding a way to smile. That's number 11, Denis Radchenko, somehow squeezing his big 6'6" frame into that bar stool. How are you, Denis?
I'm good, thanks.
Denis is always good. He's always finding a way to smile. And Semi, as we know, it was a tough weekend last weekend, but one of those weekends that it just didn't seem like anything was going right.
Yeah, definitely glad that it's over this weekend. Let me start that. But it's each of those games brought some positives and then some negatives. Obviously, I felt like the whole weekend we struggled to score. That was the biggest one. We outshotted them, and we couldn't find a way to put a puck in the net. And I think that's a result of us playing not as good of a teams in those 8 previous games before we played PD here, and we got used to playing a little fancy and trying to do it a little bit too individual without a grit. How we were, how we need to play, and it kind of showed. The 2 goals we scored on Sunday was off the high tip and then a rebound. And I just feel like we need more of those goals. We need more of those gritty goals where we have the bodies going to the net and taking the shots from the blue. Because at the end of the day, now towards the end of the season, every team is going to be more disciplined defensively, not allow as many odd man rushes. And then obviously special teams too. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, the power play definitely not how you guys wanted that to go this weekend. That you had a lot of opportunities, but I think one of the stories of the weekend was give PD credit. When they had the opportunities, they converted. When they gave you guys the opportunities, they did get a good job of killing them off. I think the difference from Saturday to Sunday, it's a much better start Sunday. Both those games, you start the game on a power play due to a penalty in warm-ups. Sunday, you're able to find a way to convert, and that seemed to kind of flip the start where they gained a lot of the momentum from killing that off on the start of the game on Saturday.
Absolutely. I felt like Friday we played a decent game. Saturday, I don't know what exactly happened there, honestly, after the first period. And then Sunday we got back in it. If you think about it, Friday and Sunday were close games. We put a goalie there. Now, on the other hand, Saturday was that just we got outworked, we got outcompeted. But it seems like this is the only team we're just unable, and we have a hard time finding a ways to win those games. And there's a lot of things we've done right in those games, but then again, at the end of the day, the team who scores more goals wins the game. And despite us having a 47 shots, scoring 2 goals is unfortunately not enough.
And give PD a lot of credit. You talk about the shots on goal that you were able to have. I mean, it could have been 50, even 60 any one of those nights. I mean, they did a great job of getting in the shooting lanes. They blocked a ton of shots. They were able to slow you guys down a lot offensively. And, of course, the positive from that is that you can learn a lot from that, right?
Yeah, they clogged the middle of the ice in the neutral zone and in the D zone. And, for us, we talk all weekend about spreading them apart. And I just don't feel like it's something what's in our minds yet to do it every time. And we, yet again, playing against Mississippi and these teams, they give you the middle, and we got used to taking the middle. And now when the middle wasn't open, we kind of, got in the zone and they know what exactly to look for or how to get out of the corners where they swarm you. So, a lot of credit goes to them. You're right, they did a hell of a job at blocking shots. There's a lot of block shots, not just their wingers, but their D in front of the net. They sacrifice the body, and that's how you have to play, going towards the playoff.
And when you look at the goals against numbers, of course, they're a little bit skewed. But, Anthony, having to get all 3 starts on the weekend, did about as much as he possibly could in net, I think.
Yeah, it was a kind of a little bit of the experiment to see going towards the playoff how Sherman's gonna feel through all three games, and he he has never played in his career back-to-back games prior playing in Columbus. That was the first time since 2019 he played back-to-back games. Okay, so never in pro hockey. Now this is the first time in his career when he played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So 3 games back-to-back. That's a lot for a goaltender for sure. And that one thing that they may not have a lot of shots, but they created a lot of shots from the inside of the dots in the D zone, and those are stressful opportunities for the goaltender. So I think he been consistent in all 3 games. I think we could give him a little bit better help in front of him than we have. But as far as Sharma goes, he's consistent at what he does.
Yeah, before we quickly get Denis's thoughts from the player perspective on last weekend, one other positive I think to touch on was you guys physically. I don't think there was any back down in that aspect of it. You go up against a team that plays a nearly identical style to you in terms of their structure and how they're able to do things, but the physicality aspect of it, I don't think you guys were necessarily out physical. There were just moments in the game that bounces didn't go the right way.
Yeah, I think on Friday, we did a good job throwing the bodies around, being physical. Same goes on Sunday. I think the guys, stood up to their big boys, and the physical aspect of the game was there. I even think on Saturday, the first period, I know, Denis, Robin, they had a big hit against Divine Apollo, and it got the bench going. But I thought like Saturday we got away from it after the first period, and at the end of the day, any block shots, any hit, that creates a momentum for your team, right? That's the energy you kind of pick up from, and we just didn't have that on Saturday. But yeah, you said that like. Bounce it could go either way. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad to have a weekend like this. But we talked about it this morning a lot. At the end of the day, we got lucky enough that Baton Rouge did a job against Topeka. Binghamton, did a job against Danbury. Danbury got a couple of points, so they're 11 points behind us. Now this upcoming weekend, going to Danbury is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest weekends here.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest road series we've had all season long. When you look at the grand scheme of things, of what PD was able to do on their end this weekend was they put a big time gap between they and Twin City, and this weekend you guys have a chance to do that head to head against Danbury. Before we get into over the weekend, well, he just disappeared. As who knows who's going to bring him up, but there's Robin. Now he's behind the speaker. You touched on the physicality, specifically against Divine Apollon. Credit to Robin for dropping the mitts with one of the league's most feared enforcers, and not just answering the bell, delivering some nice rights in there. Robin actually asked me after the game, "Do you think I won?" I was like, "Yes, I think you won." Why are you asking me that question?
I asked, how do you think it went?
No, you, okay. We'll go with that. You said, how do you think it went? I said, I thought you did well. And you said, so you think I won? It's like, yeah, you did. Yeah, 100%. Denis, however, and this clip made the rounds in our Facebook fan page. I was a bit concerned when Divine Apollon came in holding the R2 button, just skating full speed at you from behind, and you sneezed on him and he fell backwards like a ton of bricks. I mean, please walk us through how you were able to do that.
We just started a new challenge with Rels and Damon within 3 minutes playing every day. So that's what it is. That's the secret.
So we are crediting planks for this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're aware on that, we're crediting planks for the hit. But Denis, for you guys, from the player perspective, it was a tough weekend. But the important thing I think for you guys in the room is to make sure you stay positive and focus on what's ahead of you this weekend, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys defensively, as a defensive unit, I saw you get involved a lot offensively. You were able to create some scoring chances really well, breaking the puck out of the defensive zone. And I'm sure Zemi agrees, when you're able to use your size like that to create that time and space, it really puts a lot of pressure on the opposition.
Yeah, for sure. When defenseman skates in the zone and their forward's kind of tired after they went offense, so it kind of gives an advantage for an attack.
Yeah, and as a defensive unit, you guys did everything you could, I think, to play as well as you could in front of Anthony this weekend. But I just want to get your thoughts on how things went for you guys defensively.
I think we were pretty good on some of their better guys, but we got scored on PK a couple of times. One time we left the guy in front of the net. It just little things. Sometimes you miss the guy or something like that, and it causes a goal. So.
And I think and I said it on the broadcast Saturday, when it's not your night, it's really not your night, and that's just how it went. You look at the two-man advantage power play that they had; it turned into a 5-on-2 essentially. When Danny broke his stick and you guys weren't able to clear the puck. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened that were positive, but there's a lot of things that don't usually happen every other weekend. That things just kind of tended to snowball. And as we said, now it's important to just focus on what went well and carry that forward into this weekend.
Well, but you always have to go back and see what went wrong at first, right? Address that and then focus on the positivity, right, throughout the week. But, we've done that, and, that one big positive I felt from a Friday's game was our D did a really good job at retrieving and regrouping the puck. That I felt like that was one of the best games from our D core to deliver the puck to the forwards and give them some room to skate the puck. Now, on the other hand, yes, there's been a lot of calls what I would disagree with, and that 5-on-3 is one of them. There's been a embellishment at a dive 3 times back to back, and that should be called, if not one way, both ways at least, if not just for them.
Only one of those instances was called a dive, I believe, in that Saturday game.
Yeah, but anyway, we can use that as an excuse at the end of the day, right? We can do our part and not that allowed to change the game, right? So yeah, as much as we would like to disagree with it, we could have been better, and there's positives and there's the things we need to learn from, and we're moving on against Emory.
Yeah, Denis, we'll wrap the weekend here. You guys got a big addition to the defensive core last weekend. What was it like to have a guy with the experience and the skill level of Steven out there this weekend?
It was good. He's a pretty positive guy in the locker room, and with the guys, some guys already knew him. And he's a very solid defenseman on the ice. Maybe a little slow, but he's a great passer, and he can shoot.
Yeah, I mean, he showed that pretty much right away. He's got a cannon of a shot, picked up the assist on the power play goal Sunday by letting that rocket go from the blue line, and was inches away from putting home one on Friday. It was a great setup by Danny. The puck just hopped on edge as soon as he tried to let it go. But you touched on it Friday after the game. You were really impressed with what he was able to show after not playing a game in close to a year. He didn't look like he'd missed a beat at all.
Well, that addition just happened like from an hour to an hour on Friday. Steven just got cleared by the doctor on the 25th of February after his hip surgery. So he hasn't played or he hasn't skated since his last game with the Dogs last season. He got on the ice by himself one time this past week, and then Friday, us realizing that he wants to come back, and him realizing he's got to play all 15 games, that he's got to show up in the afternoon, dress up, and be in that game. So for not playing for that long and coming off that surgery, we expected that it's gonna take him a little bit to get up the speed and get up the pace of the game and get his feet under him. but he definitely showed, his hockey IQ, his experience. He's a phenomenal passer. And obviously he's got a good shot now. He has not practiced with the guys one single time, jumped straight in the game. So we're gonna see improvement from him every game. He's full time with us for the rest of the season, and he's a guy who won a championship at the SPHL level. He's been one of the top D at the SPHL level, and once he gets back to himself, gets a couple practices and games under his belt. We're very excited about having him, because yet again, going in the playoff, that's the caliber of the guys. You need that experience. You need the guys on the roster who've been in those situations and they know how to play in that playoff hockey. And now with Greg, with Danny, with Smirk, and with Steven, now we have 4 guys who've been in those situations, and they can help to lead the team.
Yeah, and you've got 4 guys that have either won a championship, in the case of Greg and Merck, and guys that have, and Steven, and guys that have been close, and somebody like Danny. Of course, Greg was close when he was with Carolina as well, and of course you were on that Roanoke team, a part of that Roanoke team that won that championship, so of course you know what it takes as well, right?
Yeah, I've been lucky to experience that as a player in Columbus with the River Dragons. My last season playing, and then with Roanoke on the bench, and at 2 different levels. It's winning a championship is something what nobody can ever take away from you, and it's something where that team really is a family. Until today, all the guys I've played with and had the opportunity to win the championship with, we're always talking. It's like a brotherhood, and we have the family here. With the whole team, and then I know that we're capable of getting that stuff done, and getting there in those situations. We just gotta still quite a bit of work ahead of us to get to that point.
Yeah, but as you well know, it's not going to be easy. But I mean, as we've said, that's been the goal from day one to try and get to that point. And, it really starts in earnest this weekend. We'll get further into the weekend as we go on. But Denis, it's time for the fun part of the show, where we are going to ask you questions about your teammates. Robin's answer to one of those questions was to throw you directly under the bus. Actually, it wasn't under the bus. It was more throw you to a gaggle of zombies. But we'll get to that question later on in the segment. So, question number 1, Denis. Who is the biggest eater on the team?
The biggest eater? Who knows more than everybody else? Or
No, who? You got 25 chicken wings to eat in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Who are we picking?
Probably Robin.
I was going to say, he's sitting right there.
Yeah.
What do you think, 25 in 10 minutes, Rob?
I can do probably 30.
Well, he told us the story that he did, 9 hamburgers in, 5 minutes?
I never said that. I said I ate 15 cheeseburgers one time.
In how much time?
It was like an hour or something.
Still, that's pretty impressive. Robin's coming for the Kobayashi crown of the hot dog eating contest. But let's go to question 2, Denis. Who is the funniest guy on the roster?
Could be Danny. Danny is pretty funny. Danny, Dales.
Yeah,
Damon.
Dales has his moments. Damon.
Mike.
These are all good picks.
Yeah.
All good picks. Number 3, who is if you had to pick anybody, if you had the choice of who to room with on the road, who's your pick?
Room with? One of the Russians, Denis, Nikita.
I'll let you sit on that one, Dave. So, I have to tell this story because if I don't, you probably would. I got duped on the trip to Biloxi. We rolled in early in the morning. Unknowingly, Brandon Reller and I were wearing the same exact outfit on the bus. Someone made a comment about it. Zemi goes, "Oh, by the way, you're rooming together." Zemi sounded completely serious. Me, having just woken up, did not understand that Zemi was actually kidding. So I get to the room. Brandon goes, "Oh, they only gave us one key." I was like, "Wow, I mean, I guess that's fine." A few moments later, in walks Damon. "Oh, hi, how are you?" Not 2 seconds after Damon walks in with the other key, Zemi calls and goes, "I was kidding, you're rooming with Philip."
Not that.
It got more embarrassing after the game on Friday when I forgot what floor I lived on that weekend, where I rode the elevator with Zemi all the way up to the 10th floor. And Zemi goes, "Aren't you on the 7th floor?" Let's just say I racked up a couple of fines over the weekend. So we'll leave that there. But back to the regularly scheduled programming. Our fourth question, Dennis. Who would be your pick in doubles tennis?
Doubles tennis.
If you had to pick a doubles partner for tennis, who on the roster are we going with?
I don't know. I think Phil plays good tennis, and maybe I don't know. Nikita should be pretty good too.
I was going to say Nikita, but Phil's probably good too. Tennis is big over in that part of your neck of the woods. So, as you well know. So yeah. Anyways, question 5: if you were stuck with anyone on the roster in a zombie apocalypse, who would it be and why?
Carson.
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 Sorry, Rob.
No worries.
Carson will help for sure.
Any comment on Robin sacrificing you?
No, I wouldn't take Robin. Definitely, we wouldn't survive.
Well, see, Robin said that your long strides would help.
No.
Your frame would help. And then he was just going to throw you in there and sacrifice you.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know if he just didn't fully understand the question or what that was. But anyways, Dennis, I do want to get your thoughts real quick on what things have been like here since you came back here for your second year with the team, and how you've seen things just continue to grow with the franchise, and just talk us through how great this year has been in terms of getting the fan support that you guys have gotten so far.
Yeah, definitely. This year, I think we see more fans in the stands, that's for sure. We got the new area right next to the locker room, like a gym area. That's pretty cool. Last year we didn't have it. We got a kitchen area too, where guys can have breakfast and stuff. Like last year it wasn't an option, so it's also pretty cool. This year I'm getting all the same sticks. I like it a lot too. Last year I was getting different sticks. It's kind of, it was fun, but when you get something new, you have to adapt to it. So yeah, I like it. The team is definitely much better this year than it was last year. We have a great group of forwards. It's a very high competition if you're forward in our team. So and we have a great core of goalies. The older ones, the younger ones, it's perfect.
By the way, the video of the tape measure, Greg actually pulled his age, not his jersey number. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He pulled 55. But
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Greg is a funny guy.
Real quick, one more, Dennis. Had a great crowd over the weekend, and that had to feel great for you guys to, it didn't go the way you wanted to, but you still had 2,000 plus there in the building almost every night. First of all, give it up for yourselves. That was our biggest of the, I think, 4 3-game weekends we've had in franchise history. That was the biggest crowd-wise we've ever had. So give it up for yourselves. But, even when things don't go quite right, when you guys go out there to center ice to salute them, nobody's sitting down. Everybody's standing and applauding, and that's got to feel great for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was really good hockey. It was a good weekend of hockey. And we were competing, and I think it still looks good for a fan. And even if we lose, they still see a really good hockey game. So I think that's always good.
Yep. At the end of the day, that's kind of the backup. You want to win, but you want to put on a good show too, and I think you guys did just that. Zemi, let's move on to this weekend. As we said, there's big time divisional points on the line and a chance to you can't clinch that 4th spot, but you can really put some distance between yourselves and a Danbury team that, as you said, found a way to do what not a lot of teams have done this year, and that's beat Binghamton.
Yeah, I think this was the first time they actually got a point from from a games playing against Binghamton. But they have a different look than we see them the first time, than we see them the second time. The last trip we had to Danbury, things didn't go as well as we would like in any way. Not just the game, but just the travel and everything was a little bit off. So we're making sure that this time we're leaving early enough. We're getting settled in the night before at the hotel. The guys get enough rest and they're ready to play. Now, as far as their team goes, they play a similar style of the hockey as PD. Maybe not as much skilled, but when it comes to defensively, very similar. They'll play this playoff style of a hockey game. They'll be physical. They'll keep it very simple, and we have to learn from what we did wrong this past weekend. And then we talked about this morning, if we have a couple practices to manage that and to work on those things, and if we can make the improvement in that area, and be ourselves when it comes to possessing the puck and being connected together, and add a little bit of the grit. I think that should be a good games for us. But yet again, we don't want to underrate anybody, and then we gotta make sure we show up and we outcompete that team first of all and foremost, and then obviously add the structure and be disciplined within our structure, and find a way to put a puck in the net.
As you said, there's a lot of similarities between them and PD, and they've done a lot of business together this year too on the trade part of it. Guys that you saw at the last trip to Danbury were here with PD this past weekend. Guys like Adela and Legoff, and now you'll see guys with Danbury that were with PD early in the season. A guy like Pickford and a few others, and of course our old friend Milan is there in Danbury as well. But it's as you said, it's a team that's not easy to play against, but at the same time, you guys know what needs to be corrected, and you know how to beat this team because you're able to do it at home. Now it's just a matter of taking that on the road.
Well, they have a young team, and they did acquire Cherniak from Watertown. He's a 6'7" defenseman, and he plays well. He's experienced. They acquired Adrian Chance, who kind of plays like Carson Andreoli on our team, so that adds and helps their physicality. Young team, they'll compete. They'll keep it very simple. We gotta make sure that we play our game and that we stick to our plan, we execute our plan, and keeping it very simple from a red line to our goal line, and have the confidence to and the support from each other to make a place in the ozone. And at the end of the day, we learned that this past weekend 50 shots on the net may not be enough if we don't have the grit. So we're gonna make sure that we're following the puck and we having the bodies crashing the net.
Yeah, Denis, as he said, you get to 50 shots. The volume is good, but you have to look at the level of opportunity that it creates. Was it a shot from the outside? Did it just glance off the goalie? It's about making those 50 shots on goal each as high danger as possible, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even if you shoot from outside and there's traffic in front, you still can score. So it really depends on how the situation looks.
And that's something that Zach Ross touched on, your defensive partner, when we had him on the show a few weeks ago, was that you guys have worked a lot on it and tried to implement into the game time after time, is getting those shots in that might seem harmless from the blue line, but if there's enough traffic or there's enough bodies in front of the net, at the very least it gets knocked down or it goes off somebody. You've got a rebound opportunity, it gets deflected. There's a lot of things that can happen at that point, like the goal you scored in Topeka, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, from the perspective of, you're talking about Danbury being the young team, I think this was something that did get corrected in the second meeting with them. But the last trip there, they were able to use their speed a lot, especially, through the neutral zone, through the middle of the ice. I think it's going to be important for Denis and the rest of the defensemen to make sure those those gaps are tight and those pinches are smart along the wall, and that the entries into the zone are not as easy as they were the last time we were there.
Yeah, absolutely. They chip the puck a lot. Their weak side defenseman always joins the play. So we expect from them that they will have 4 guys going up the ice all the time. That's we gotta stress it a little bit more that our forwards off of the forecheck, they are recovering, getting back above the puck on the defensive side of the puck, and we're not cheating all over the ice because that would create odd man situations for them, and we want to take that away. But then again, they are very tenacious on the forecheck. I think that's the one thing they do really well is forechecking. So we got to make sure that we're good on our retrievals and getting puck out of the zone. And then obviously, the game between the blue lines usually decides how the game goes, right? We got to win the lanes, and put the pucks past their D and then go to work.
Yeah, Denis, he talked about it. They're a very aggressive team on the forecheck, and you guys found that out the early part of that game, the last meeting you guys had here at Hitachi Energy Arena. But, as good as you guys have been recently in breaking the puck out and getting the play started, it's just important for you guys to remain consistent on that part of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's how the game's played. You just gotta keep doing simple things like getting out of your own zone, get in the offensive zone, and there you're trying to score a goal. And if you lose the puck, you just gotta go again back to defense and start all over again.
Yeah,
So-
it's important not to try to do too much either, right? That's something Zemi talks about a lot, is keeping things simple. If nothing's there, you might chip it off the glass just to get it out. But, against a team that is as aggressive as this one is, simplicity is best, right?
Yeah, you just gotta find that soft middle where you can play simple and still be creative when it needed, and that's gonna be the best.
Yeah, and Denis and all the defensemen, but Denis specifically, over the last few weeks has done a great job of almost single-handedly starting to break out himself by using that area behind the net, acting as kind of a screen, drawing that forechecker in, making him go the other way around the net. All of a sudden, he's got a little time and space to work with.
Absolutely. Dennis Dennis got all the tools to be a great defenseman, and he's young, and there's been some pain and aches, and he's been learning the pro game, but he found that consistency in his game lately. I think Dennis, defending wise, he is one of the best defensemen in the league. With his reach, with his skating abilities, it's really difficult to get by him. And with the puck now, when he learning how to win a line and how to rush the puck up and how to make a quicker decision, and he's been doing a great job at it. And you can tell, he's been matching the top line from PD all weekend long, and that line, our line won that series against their line. So again, being able to have somebody on the back end like Denis, we can fully trust, and he'll bring the physicality, and he's a hard to play against, simply said.
Yeah, Denis, you as he said, you bring that reach, that size, that speed, and your goal is to make it tough on the other team to get into the offensive zone. And we know all about that top line for PD, and you guys did as much as you could 5-on-5 to make life difficult for them. And that's the goal again this weekend against a team that, as Zemi said, likes to chip the puck off the wall, likes to get in to the zone quickly, likes to get chances off the rush. It's important to make sure that those gaps are tight, right?
Yeah, for sure. When they chip the puck, you're just trying to keep the hold on your man and let your partner take care of the dump, and everybody's eventually coming back to the middle, and from there you're just trying to sort it out and pin one guy, and your partner will come in and will help you. So
Yeah, another big key for you guys all over the D, forwards, whoever, is communication, something that Zemi talks about a lot, but especially against a team like this that, is able to create a lot of chances off the forecheck, as aggressive as they are on it. You guys, communication, I'm sure, is going to be key, right?
yeah.
As Zemi, as we've talked about it a lot, it's like beating a dead horse, but at the same time, these are the things that you kind of have to go over to make sure that they're drilled in everyone's heads, right?
It's hard to it's hard to be consistent and communicating on the ace, but we stress it enough in the practices. I mean, today we went back all the way to start of the season and we did a drill what specifically just focus on communication between the players. And yet again, more you're getting towards the end of the season, your body's getting tired, and the communication is even more important. It makes the game easier, but it's harder for the players in those situations, those stressful situations that when they have pressure on them, and the second closest guy is not necessarily close, for him to communicate with his D partner or the forwards coming back. But yeah, it's a very important part of the game, and the game can be much easier to be played when you communicate.
Denis, we'll wrap it up here. Your 3 keys to victory this weekend.
I don't know. Physicality, simplicity, and finish. We got to finish our moments. We had a lot of moments this week, and we just didn't finish. So.
Yeah, was we touched on at the beginning of the show was converting on those chances. I think that's a good point. Zemi?
Back-checking and backtracking. Protecting the slot, the middle in front of our net in the D zone. We call it the honey hole. Take any kind of opportunities away from them and having a great in front of their net.
So we've got 7:30 and 7:00 starts this weekend on Friday and Saturday. So Friday will be on the air at 7:15. Saturday will be on the air at 6:45. So make sure you join us on the audio and video sides of the Blue Ridge Hockey Network here on YouTube, Facebook Live, Sportfeed, and 96.5, 1360 WCTX The Cat. For Denis Radchenko and head coach Wojtek Semlika, I'm Brett Wiseman. We got 6 points to get in Connecticut. We'll see you then.
Thank you.